Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Happy Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Sierra, and today I am joined by an incredibly interesting person, joined by Cameron Hemphill. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. You guys have a state-of-the-art facility. It's awesome to be here.
And you came really far, too. I think you took, like a 10-hour flight to get here?
3 airplanes and, some travel for sure. But I'm happy to be in Utah. It's great. I'm actually from here originally. So I moved to Florida a couple years ago, and I love coming back here, so it feels good to be home.
Love that. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about what you're doing, about your business, just kind of the Cameron 101.
Sure. So I've been in the tech space. I've been an entrepreneur ever since I was a kid. I mean, I was that guy that was always trying to figure stuff out. Why do things work this way? Why do they not work that way? And I always just was like asking questions, right? And so naturally that got me into understanding, entrepreneurship and technology is kind of where my mind went in terms of solving problems. So out of high school, I went to college, came out of college, and got into real estate. And I quickly learned that the real estate process was very much not organized correctly when it comes to managing transactions, leads, systems, processes. And what caught my attention was this was back in the day when people were sending offers and they were sending them through a fax machine. And so like the fax machine was just like, there was a line, people sending fax, and like you could email to fax. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, this is so inefficient. And so naturally just kind of explored opportunities of like, how can you solve systems and processes? And so that naturally got me into the CRM world, customer relationship management world, and raised capital around a company that was an internet company for real estate transactions. Ended up raising capital. We grew it very well. Ended up exiting that company. And then I got into marketing and e-commerce. And marketing and commerce was on this up and up, and really enjoyed that angle of how you could take products, you could put them on the internet, understand how to market them, people could find them. And this is really like, 10 years ago when people were adapting to online shopping. Right? And so if you kind of combine the history from tech, CRM, processes, and then understanding digital marketing and online shopping, that got me into Growth99. And so I'm the founder of Growth99, the CEO, and I've looked at practice owners as very intelligent people. So at Growth99, we help practice owners grow. Right, so if you own a med spa, you're in the aesthetic space, you're in the dental space, you're in the wellness space. That's what we do. Is we help them with keeping their calendars full, bookings, marketing automation, MarTech, and systems and processes. Right, and so when you look at practice owners, I mean, technology is coming a long way, but when you look at them historically, let's take 5 years ago, for example, there was not much tech in the space. Right? These are very well-educated people that were focusing on their services, their treatment, like their craft, but not having systems to actually scale their practice. And so our desire is to help practice owners run their practice like a business. How many leads are coming in? How do I manage them? And how do I look at data and analyze those decisions to really scale and elevate their practice? So,
Do you find a lot of people are already doing that?
yeah, a lot of people are, I mean, what I've seen, so I've been going to these shows, right? There's conferences all over the country, outside of the country, and these shows have been going on for years, but I went to the first American Med Spa conference, and it is night and day different. Like there was 2 or 3 tech companies there, and now if you go to, like I was just there just recently, that was in April in Las Vegas, and almost every exhibitor is a tech company, right? And so there's a tremendous amount of tech that has moved into the space because we've identified that these practice owners, they have something special to offer the community and people. They help people with confidence, right? And that's like the beauty of really what they're trying to solve. And now with the wellness side, like you have the aesthetics, you have the injections, you have the neurotoxins, and that's to feel confident on the outside. But now they're getting into wellness where it's feeling confident on the inside. So when you combine those two, like they're doing something so special and they need to be focused on their craft. And so if by leveraging technology companies and vendors and building partnerships really helps take that pain point off of them, so they can focus on their craft and we can just help them run the tech and really automate the practice.
I love that, and I've heard in all my conversations with practitioners that the overarching theme is that, yeah, we went into medicine to practice medicine, and a lot of people want to be practice owners, but really want to focus on their craft and connecting with their patients, connecting with their staff, and doing the things that only they can do, right? Then it becomes a game of what do I prioritize and what can I offload? And it turns out a lot of times you can offload things to tech.
Yep.
So that's what we'll focus the majority of this conversation on. The first thing I wanted to ask you, you mentioned MarTech, which is marketing tech, specifically for the healthcare space. Can you give us a brief overview of what that is and why it matters in today's landscape?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a term that's been around for a while, but when you take it to the practice owner environment, I would assume most of them have no idea what that term means, right? What MarTech? They're like, okay, what is that? I haven't, 2 or 3 years ago, most people didn't understand what a CRM was from a practice owner standpoint. Now, guys like you and I that work at tech companies or have like CRM 101, we know what that is, right? MarTech, we also know. So it's kind of understanding that there is platforms out there to help practice owners scale through marketing automation, right? And so first thing you have to understand is like when you look at a practice owner or a very successful practice owner, they're very good marketers, extremely good marketers, especially in the aesthetic space, because this is a cash-based business. And in order to get the customer, the potential patient you're looking for, you have to market, right? And so there's channels and platforms, obviously. There's social, Facebook, Instagram. There's Google reviews. There's, your website, your SEO, like TikTok. There's podcasts. I mean, there's just crazy, right? So how do you take all these marketing angles, understand exactly what they're doing, and where to find your attribution? And so what MarTech helps you practice owners do, and any business for that matter, but most importantly for practice owners, where it's like, okay, what is the actual output that I'm doing on these platforms? Like, what is coming in, and how do I manage it all in one centralized database to where I can understand, like, what is giving me the best results and best attribution, and then invest in those specific categories?
So you mentioned several things there, and I think it's important for people to realize that marketing is a mix, and marketing is a bunch of different activities. Now, some people, their marketing strategy is very simple. Like I know practices that just they utilize Weave, they just turn on our review feature, and that brings in patients and it works for them, right? But a lot of other practices maybe are in different markets and have different goals. Each business is incredibly different. So what are some of the key things that somebody needs in their marketing tech stack as a practice owner?
As a practice owner, can we focus on the aesthetic space for that question?
Yeah. I mean, like, let's use, because Cameron specializes in the aesthetic space, so we'll use that as a case study, but just the listeners should understand that I'd say like 90 to 95% of things translate over.
Yeah, no, and even like I'm seeing, let's take dental, for example, and aesthetics, for example. I mean, my dentist does Botox, right? So there's a lot of crossover that's taken place. We were just talking offline about how optometry is now also getting into aesthetics, right? So you see this overlap happening. And so, one thing, what's different is in the dental space is typically insurance, unless it's like a cosmetic procedure. Maybe that's not covered, like, veneers or something like that. And then on the aesthetic side, it's like 95% cash pay, right? Maybe there is some insurance that's out there that you could take. So what happens is you have to market, and it's a very big undertaking, right? There is so many, especially in today's landscape. I mean, you have to build a great website, right? You have to have great call to action on there. You have to have now you have chat bots, you have online booking, like there's so many segments to just that website. Like I look at that as like your digital practice in a way. And I think a lot of people look at it like, hey, a website's just a website, it's a checkbox, right? It's like, no, this is actually just as important as your physical location, right? In terms of how you get people there, how they navigate, how they get into your funnel. And then let's look at, social, let's look at Instagram, right? I see practice owners that absolutely nail the Instagram, like social feed. On the reels are getting very powerful now. If you look at like Instagram's following the whole TikTok algorithm. And so it's very daunting. Like, so back to your question, I mean, you have Google where you got to run paid search on. You have Google My Business, which is location. These are brick and mortar places. You have Google Reviews, which obviously, plays a major factor into SEO and reputation management. And you have to have platforms for that. And then you also have, SEO around your website, right? So there's YouTube. We're on a podcast right now. Like, how do you do all this? Right? How do you manage it all as a practice owner? It's very daunting. I think it's the most important role besides safety and like doing your procedure. At least outside of that, I would say the marketing is the most important critical component if you're a cash-based practice business.
What are some what are some success stories that you've seen of practices that weren't implementing a lot of marketing things? They started implementing it and had results. Could you speak to what that impact is for some people?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could look at like let's take the dental example for a second. If you've had like a family-owned dental practice for years, and a lot of times you see the father or whatever pass it down to his kid. Like I see that quite a bit, right? If you've had your practice for a long time, typically they have a patient base, right? So like we don't really need to market. We have a big patient base, and so they typically kind of put marketing in the back seat, right? Well, if they want to get into like cosmetic procedures, for example, like high ticket item veneers, I mean, you're talking $20,000, $30,000 treatment, very profitable, great margins. Those aren't just patients that are just going to come in the door. So when you look at a practice persona like that, and they start investing in marketing, paid search campaigns around cosmetic procedures, high ticket items, search campaigns on paid social around really good organic content where people are scrolling on Instagram and Facebook and they see your post, takes to a great landing page, a great customer success story. Like these leads come in through the funnel, and if acted upon correctly in a nice time frame, I've seen these practice owners go from not doing cosmetic procedures to like that's their biggest service category and the most profitable service category. And a lot of times that's where they have the most fun because they're helping the consumer build confidence. So that's one example. In the aesthetic space, I've seen several practices that they don't want to invest in marketing because they think it's so expensive, right? It is expensive. MarTech is expensive. Investing in ads, a good website, a good agency that understands, it's expensive. But 9 times out of 10, I see that they are not investing enough in marketing, right? A good rule of thumb is you should invest 5% of your revenue should be funneled back to marketing. And the practice owners that follow that rule of thumb are the ones that I see gobble up market share. And there's a tremendous amount of competition that's coming into the market. There's like 12.5 thousand med spas in the U.S. right now, and it's growing. It's not growing as fast as it was over the past few years, but it's still growing. And in order to capture market share and maintain market share, you need to be a very active, solid marketer. And the ones that do are the ones that stick around and have success.
So we've talked about it from the clinician's perspective and from the practice perspective. Let's talk about it from the patient perspective. A really good marketing stack and a really good patient communication stack, what is the impact on the patients themselves and what are they thinking and feeling and experiencing throughout this process?
I love the question because every decision that a practice owner should make should be about patient experience. Like it's all about patient experience. And if you deliver that time and time again, not only are they going to come back, but they're going to tell their friends, their family, their colleagues, their coworkers of where they had the best experience. And I don't mean just the service in general, right? I'm meaning everything, right? So the minute that they find you, and whether they're scrolling online, on Google or social, whether it's organic or paid or whatever, the moment they click that link, if it goes to a landing page or the website, or make the phone call or send a text or whatever, if it is not easy to navigate, so let's say they click the link, it goes to the website. Most consumers want to book online, right? It's very common now to book online. So for practice owners, if you do not invest in online booking, this is an area that I would strongly consider. And I would look at platforms that actually have text-back communication. So when you do book that appointment on Tuesday at noon or whatever it is, the system sends you a text. It sends you a text reminder. It sends you a text after your appointment to ask how your experience was and get a good feedback loop, right? So it has to be, I mean, we live in a day and age where I can go onto Amazon and I can purchase something and it shows up to my door in a couple hours. Pretty crazy world.
Right? Did that last night.
You did that last night, right? Like, it's pretty crazy. Like, so, have you played with the Delta app, the chat app by chance?
I used that last night too.
Use that? Okay.
I love his examples.
It's fantastic, right? Like, oh my gosh, I don't have to call Delta anymore. I can use this thing. And I would say, a year or 2 years ago, maybe we were like, chatbots, no, not interested. That's annoying. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have to call anybody. I can do it. And they're fast and it gives you everything. Like, it's super convenient. So it comes down to convenience and it comes down to experience, right? And so like, And if somebody inquires on your website or your DMs, your social, however they come in, because as a practice owner, you're getting hit from every angle. So you have to consolidate it and you have to deliver a fantastic experience. And if you do, like we're big on communication, and then when they come into the actual facility themselves, how are they greeted? Right? Like how is your front staff better be trained on like hospitality, right? Because we're taking time out of our day to come here, right? And it's really like going to a practice is kind of an inconvenience in a way, right? We have to shift from whether we're at work or the family or whatever we're doing and go there. So it needs to be an experience. And then obviously when they're getting the service and treatment done, like that's where you should shine. That is why you went to school. Like literally, that's where you are. I'm a golfer, so that's where Tiger Woods is wearing Sunday, like red on the Sunday, and he's going down the stretch and winning the Masters, right? Like that's where you shine. And then what is the experience from after the treatment? Like, and I see a ton of practice owners. This is where I really wish they would invest more time. Because like, okay, you're done, go see the front desk. That is a time to build rapport, build relationships. Like if you have a wonderful checkout process, like a great SOP design process, you should be getting connected on social with that person organically. You should ask them if they would be open to sharing their experience on social and maybe tagging you, so then all their followers naturally see the post and then follow you. You'll get inbound flow from that. You should ask for feedback. You should have an automatic review, like feedback loop that goes to Google if they had a good experience, and share that with the world, right? And then also like rebook them, like ask them when they want to come back. If you have a membership program, tell them about it. If you have skincare product in a retail line, like what's going to help them with their experience if they're getting an injection, for example. Like it's those tiny things that add up time and time again. So when they leave, they feel great, they feel confident, they're glad they took the time out of their day, and they want to tell everybody about it, right? It's like, if you go to a great restaurant or a great hotel or had a great experience, you want to tell people about it because it was fun. You had fun, and so I think people naturally like want to do fun things that are exciting and easy. And so, looking at patient experience, I think is like, it's just critical. You have to analyze it and you have to nail it with tech and personality.
At the end of the day, people are going to your practice to feel better.
That's right.
And they're going to feel better about how they look, about the functioning of their teeth, their functioning of their eyes, the health of their pet.
Yep.
I mean, I think about this all the time. I had an experience at a dentist, and there's a dentist that I'd been working with, and I showed up for a pretty big procedure, and they had swapped the doctor at the last second, and I hadn't heard anything about it. So all of a sudden, like, this person that I've never met before shows up and starts working on me, didn't even introduce themselves or anything.
Yeah.
And that was a weird experience.
Right.
On the contrary, I have an optometrist that I work with, Dr. Cook, shout out, and he like really took the time with me. He had the most advanced technology. He was able to do this thing where you can see the back of your eye, like the inside of your eye. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, like the inside of your eye is super healthy. And we were like looking at stuff together. It was the best experience.
Interesting.
Do you know how many people I've referred to him?
Right, yeah.
How many of my coworkers at Weave?
Yeah.
And one of them walked in the other day. She's like, hey, thanks for recommending Dr. Cook. He was fantastic. So what you're saying is absolutely true. And I get it. Healthcare professionals are stressed out. You're busy, you have a million different things going on, and it feels sometimes like the whole place can be, it's like that whole swan thing where smooth on the surface but chaotic underneath under the water. But any extra effort to invest in the patient experience is always going to be worth it. Right?
Absolutely.
It's going to come back to you.
100%. Just like your example. I mean, how many people have she told about her experience with Dr. Cook? Mm-hmm. Right? So the word of mouth is just like, that's never going away, ever. And then when you amplify that through social platforms, hey, I went to Dr. Cook's, this guy's amazing, he did all this and this, like, and imagine if that's an influencer, right? And that has 10s, 20, 100,000 followers, whatever it is, like, that's, on my podcast, we're writing a book right now, but like, we talk about dark social, and dark social is like everything outside of paid, like everything you put on organic, like word of mouth, patient experience, talking about treatments, like downtime on YouTube, like elevating yourself as the specialist in the space outside of just running like ads around keywords. because everybody wants to be connected in a way through the internet, which is crazy to say, but like it's true. You know, like I'm sure there's people you follow on social media you've never met, but you feel connected to them in a way.
Yeah.
Right? I know I do.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of bizarre that there's this virtual landscape, but when people see that recommendation online, I would call that a word of mouth shout out, which spreads so much faster. And like a place like Weave that you work at, I don't know what your guys' head count is, but I would assume it's in the thousands. I mean, that guy has the ability, and all the people they know, right? Just from your recommendation. It starts with that experience. You had a great experience. So for the practice owner, like that should be your number one, reason for obviously getting up to help people with confidence, but focusing on an experience is critical.
Social is huge too. And
Yeah.
one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, what are some of the best practices in social? And one of the things that I've seen, you would know this better than anybody. People follow you on social because they want you to be you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's not going to do much for you if you just post the same generic graphic that anybody else can post. Some of the people that I'm seeing kill it
Yeah.
the most, they're literally just taking out their phone
Yep.
and pressing record and speaking their mind.
So
And
true.
they're just being themselves. It doesn't take that much thought. In fact, it feels like the less thought they put into it and the more authentic they are, the
Yeah.
better it does.
So true. I have some practice owners that have nailed it. And I think like some people are afraid. They're like, oh, I don't want to be on camera. Oh, I may say something that, doesn't sound good, right? And none of that matters. It really doesn't, because everybody's unique in who they are, and everybody has a story. Everybody has like a family life, a professional life, like your own hobbies, whatever it is. And it's all about connection. Like the social is all about connection. So when you just kind of like peel those layers back and say, you know what, I'm just going to like be open and honest and share what I think, and like you show the personal life a little bit, you show the business professional side a little bit, people see who you are, and then they can relate. And once they can relate, that's where they feel like they know you without ever meeting you, and it kind of creates this interesting virtual bond of trust. And then they come in and see you, and then once they do see you in real life, they're like, oh my gosh, like it's an interesting dynamic that takes place because they already naturally knew them in a way virtually, and now they're like become friends.
100%. Love it. Excellent insights there. You and I could talk for hours, and
Yeah.
I've really loved this conversation. The last thing that I want to hit on is emerging technologies. It's 2024, about halfway through the year. What are some of the new trends, technologies that you're seeing out there that people should be aware of?
Oh man, great question. I feel like every year something new is happening. When I first got into this industry, it was so fragmented. Like it needed to be, it's becoming more and more disrupted, but it's so fragmented. What I mean by that is there's just like, I would see practice owners that have like their technology stack was like 10 different SaaS products. And I'm like, how do you effectively manage the business like that way? It's not possible. And so I'm seeing it become less fragmented. There's still like feature overlap, right, with a lot of the tech stack inside the space. But what's happening is you see advanced platforms coming out. You see the vendors that have been in this industry for a while getting smarter. The practices and vendors are communicating more on pain points. And so like just kind of developing features that solve problems is really important. And then like obviously the topic around AI, machine learning, it's huge. Chat GPT, OpenAI, like automated text response, like DM consolidation, like it's so interesting what's happening with AI, automatic text response. And now I'm seeing, these AI bots that can literally learn about your practice, your brand, and communicate in a way that it almost becomes the practice owner's vocabulary of communication, where these chatbots can communicate that way. Even down to the phone. I mean, I've seen some ways where you could call a practice, and the person that picks up the phone is not a real person. It's an AI like avatar, but you can train the avatar, and it sounds so real that it almost becomes your personal assistant, or that's like that sounds real and can actually book an appointment. So I think AI with like text communication and the ability to make phone calls and like just get information quickly, we're going to see a lot of that evolve. There's still like a lot of room for us to figure that out. It's not all there yet, but in the next like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years, let's just say 5 years. I mean, I'm bullish in 5 years. I don't know if practice owners will need to have, like, I don't think we'll be making phone calls to practice owners anymore. And if you want to make a phone call, I think it's going to be a complete automated system that will answer every question you have and then help you book an appointment for Monday at 9 a.m. That's where I see it going. It's here, it's happening. There's some bugs and kinks to work out, I think. But for companies like, Weave and in communication, and patient communication and what you guys focus on, in other companies, EMR companies, CRM companies, like they're also coming together in a way, right? It's where you have like communication platforms syncing with CRMs, EMRs, online bookings, text communication, automatic feedback loop. And so everything's kind of consolidating. And then when you bolt AI onto that, it's going to be a pretty cool environment because then it just empowers the practice owner to focus on their skill set, right? Without having to really like focus on becoming a tech nerd or way and like, work so hard, right? So I think they're scared of it in some ways, but in the other ways, like there's a lot of positivity.
For those people that are scared of it, what would you tell them are the reasons to be optimistic?
It's a time saver. I think like some people are like, oh, it's a job taker, right? But if you go back in history, we were afraid to shop online at one point.
Yeah.
Right? We were like, what's this internet thing? Can you really book, an airplane ticket online? Sounds fishy, right? So things evolve, and the human race is smart. Like we adapt. We are resilient. We adapt, and it will take away some jobs for sure, but those jobs are going to be replaced by like more interesting ways of communication and more interesting ways of like what the next world is going to be. Right? Like I think like if you look at, Amazon right now is rolling out a tremendous amount of, robots to run their, their supply and their factories, right? But at the same time, now these people have the ability to just level up and really, do something else that's going to advance where we already are.
When I think it creates net new opportunities. As a patient,
Yeah.
the staff at the practices that I go to, I'd way rather have them spending time with me and making me the star of the show than being on hold with insurance for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Painful. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's many reasons to be optimistic, and I think the growth of technology and the evolution of technology is a good thing that we should definitely embrace.
Absolutely.
Cameron, it's been a great conversation. How can people find you?
Best way to find us, so again, I'm the founder and CEO of Growth99. Just go to our website, growth99.com. So if you guys are interested to learn more about what we do, how we help practice owners, we focus on practice growth, MarTech, marketing automation, really kind of help solve a lot of the marketing and lead management systems, integrate with great products and solutions, EMRs and text communication platforms. Go to our website. We'd be happy to help you guys grow or see if we're a good fit. So that's the best place to find us.
Love it. Well, thank you for joining us on the show today, and thank you everyone who listened and watched and otherwise observed. And until next time, stay happy. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys.